Hey, were you about to watch or listen to another one of my podcasts? I love that. Thank you very much. Thank you for showing love and listening to the show. Now, if you want to show a little bit more support, do me a favor, jump onto my website, blackink.com.au, and get yourself some Black Ink merch. Now, I've made it super affordable, super exclusive. I'm changing it up every month. Make sure if you see it and you like it, you get it, because every dollar that you spend goes directly to helping this podcast grow. And of course, we're at episode 160 something. It's only going to go up from here. So, do that for me. Jump on the website, buy something cool, recommend this podcast to a friend, send it, share it, put it on your story, do the thing. Now enjoy the podcast. Tell me, the other night you said that you asked me if I've experienced haters before. That's it's interesting because I feel like the answer should have been yes. My answer should have been yes. Because when I thought about it, like obviously you probably guessed by the way I spoke about it, I've had that question before and I've all kind of got that answers already preloaded, and I thought about it after the fact. I'm like, I'm at a point now where I probably should have people that have verbally said they don't like my stuff. What's your experience been with that? Have you had that in person or just online? Sorry.
Yeah, good question. So, I can go back to primary school. Being mixed race, even back then. Kids being mean and being racist.
Yeah.
And high school as well. But, luckily in a place like Bunbury, it wasn't such a bad place to grow up, compared to the stories I hear now about what some people experience, with racism in schools and stuff. But for me personally, as an adult and living in this community and when I ran for mayor, I was just astounded at people's vitriol, like from random people on my Facebook page, don't even live in Bunbury, making comments like, oh, is she even from Australia?
Really?
So, yeah. And so that's the racism part. And then I know that there were people working in the background calling the newspaper, asking them to question my donations and trying to drum up, drama, things like that, people that I knew. Whispers
People that
behind your back.
That's rough.
Yeah, I think that was probably the worst part of human nature that I've seen, was that these were people that I knew that, I thought we were friends or at least had a relationship. Of respect, but it turns out all's fair in love and war.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I think that's the big. I'm not sure. Did you listen to the Tommy Dillon podcast that I did?
No.
Very interesting conversation. He came around here. He was like, "Look, this is before the podcast, during the podcast, and after the podcast. So there's nothing I'm saying that he hasn't publicly said." He's like, "I've got my eye on you and two of your mates, and you guys are going into council this year. We're going to get you in. That's the plan." I'm like, interesting. All right. Understand that, I think we're all preoccupied with running businesses and doing the thing that makes us so attractive for that role.
Yeah.
I think one of the scary things is, after I've just sort of gone on a rant about how fearless I am in my transparency with my audience, is that that scares me. And especially you go on Ask and Answer at Bunbury or, the Jalora family and friends, whatever, all these Facebook pages, and just absolute numbskulls, having the wildest opinions based off nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't get it.
No, I don't get it either. And some people can, withstand that, and their personality is to deflect it, and it doesn't touch them. And I'm not like that. I've worked really hard to. Not consciously, but, as you get older, you have less people in your life, and the ones that you have are the quality people. And, when you're 18, you've got 500 friends and they all mean something to you. And so, I just don't understand some of these people and where they come from, and their right to say the things that they say.
Yeah. I think there's have you seen the video that's gone viral in the past 24 hours of the Land Cruiser pulling in front of the cyclists? And the cyclists, I think there's 6 of them, and then dude in about position 3 or 4. They're two abreast, and it's obviously a country road. dual cab Land Cruiser, pulls around him, gets in front of him, slows down, and then turns into his driveway. Position 3 or 4, jumps on his brakes, slips up, slides out. Old mate runs into him. And like I had 3 mates that posted it. Now I'm an ex-cyclist. So ex-cyclist as in I had a career speed skating, and part of that cross-training was cycling. And so I've done probably, 20,000 kilometers on a bike in my life. So I'm like very aware of that situation. I've been in that situation plenty of times.
Yeah.
And also like I am now as not a cyclist. I cycle every day, but it's on like a mountain bike with, and it's not in Lycra. I know the opinion that the majority seem to have that cyclists are like bad fruit or something. Like everyone just sort of thinks like they're for some reason, like they don't pay taxes, they don't have cars that they have regos on, they don't have licenses, they don't have souls, so we should just do everything we can to. And I get it, like I get it. Saturday morning, you're trying to go to work or get your coffee, and there's 150 dudes on push bikes taking up too much room. Like heaven forbid you wait a couple of minutes, but reading the comments on these things from people I know, and it's like, brother, like, why do you care so much about this? Like, the cruiser shouldn't have gone in ahead of him to slow down straight away. Like he did that on purpose, right? Secondly, the dude who slipped out, he's just a bad cyclist. You know what I mean? Like he got on his brakes too hard. You can see his front wheel washed out. But the overarching thing here is like, why are we so concerned about having an opinion on it? Like the amount of times I catch myself going to correct people, I'm like, oh, a smart person and an idiot yelling at each other in the distance are 2 idiots. Like I'm not a smart person here. I'm just someone that also has a keyboard. Like I need to keep doing my job, which is not this, So I think when you're the punching bag for that person who has a keyboard and sees something come up like, oh, we should be doing this with the town, and you jump on there as a councillor and say, well, here's kind of what we're doing. And it's like, you're the target,
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know. I don't know what drives people these days. It's it's very frustrating. I don't know. And it just makes you, just become more insular.
Yeah.
Really. Because if you put yourself out there, unless you've got a thick skin, and I don't.
Yeah.
Like I was saying, I have lots of good people around me. So I was shocked that there can be, bad people in the world. Maybe, that's obviously very ignorant of me, but I don't know. I don't think there's anything wrong with, surrounding yourself with good people and good energy.
Absolutely not. That's a goal.
For my dying days, yeah. Absolutely.
So you, how long were you a councillor for?
1 term, so 4 years.
Right. And that finished in 2023?
Yeah.
Right. So what's the transition of being heavily involved to, how involved are you with sort of the inner workings of Bunbury still?
So I'm pretty sure I left council in good standing. So my relationship with the staff is still really good. And some of the councillors I'm still in touch with. So I guess still involved, Obviously Jason became the mayor while I was in my term. So we still catch up every now and then.
Yeah.
I think the hardest part for me was the thing I missed the most was the information that you're privy to in terms of, the exciting things, the projects, the things that are happening that are not publicly announced. So, but the rest of it, not that interested in. It's really dry, it's governance and budgets. That's what you're there for, to look after residents' money and how it's spent and make sure that the council are spending it properly. So that's a lot of it, policy, and the rest is just people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People and opinions and Facebook comments.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't have a big social media presence. I just find that I can't relay what I really want to say, And that's what I tell my kids. It's like you can't really get the tone across when you're in your text. It's
Absolutely
very hard. I mean, how many times do you re-edit a text so that it sounds like it's coming across the right way or not the wrong way? I just feel like every time, you know, I write something, it's going to be judged.
Yep.
Because or misunderstood. So
there's definitely a hierarchy of communication I live by. It's like, especially when it comes to problem solving, if you have a conflict or a problem or something that you just like a situation, first, face to face, like second, video call, third, voice memo. You know, like by the time you get to text messages, like that is the absolute, or, you know, replying to a comment or whatever it might be. It's like, I mean, I guess in your situation, if you have someone who comments like, you know, Amanda, yep, this, that, and the other, you almost want to like message them directly and send them a video message like, here's why you're wrong, all right? You know, because unfortunately, otherwise, what does it look like?
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, no one's got, you sit there and you start texting and you realise it's getting longer and longer and you go, I just need to pick up the phone to start with. But yeah, I think the nuance that comes from voice and face-to-face is what's missing a lot of the time, I think.
100%. Yeah, we had a blow up, and so we've just got back from Japan. We went with a friends group of like, I say 15, it might have been like, it was a lot of people. And our real tight friends group, there's like 6 of us that all went, or 7. And I had a pretty significant like blow up with one of my very good friends, very good friends. And we actually got on the podcast to discuss it because I'm like, look, when we get back, let's just talk this out because it'll be absolutely valueless for everyone else, but for the boys, they'll love it, you know. And I said to him, so tell me what happened. And he started the story like 4 days before.
Right.
I'm like, oh wow, okay, you know, not interrupting, like, please tell me. He goes, you know, we're messaging and, you know, I was picking up that you weren't really vibing, you weren't really happy with me and rah rah rah. Not at all. That's not what was happening on my end. What was happening on my end was, you're a single guy hanging out with single guys, and I have my fiance in another country. I have no say over what happens. You know what I mean? Like, I'm literally just keeping everyone happy. I'm making sure she's safe. We don't go out after dark, all of these things. You know, and you guys at the fish market's getting written off at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I can't do that. You know what I mean? Like, there's a certain amount of responsibility that comes with traveling with a fiance. But I let him say his whole thing. It got to the point where we eventually ended up connecting, went to another city, went snowboarding, this, that, and the other. And the first night, we all got too drunk and led to this little kind of tiff. But I thought, how interesting was it that the catalyst of this was the mood, that there was something or dividing us that was based off not having that emotion-based, that emotion-connected thing, saying like, hey, I'd love to be there. I'd love to be there, but this is what we're doing, you know?
Yeah, yep, yeah, yep.
Interesting. But tell me, what was the motivation to run for mayor? That was a long one. Hey. I might edit this out.
Yeah. Give me time to think about my answer.
Oh, it destroyed me when I had Sue Chapman on.
Hi.
Thank you.
I'm glad she growls at you too.
She is actually the best security system, but the only unfortunate thing is she goes off at everything.
Everything, yeah.
Everything, yeah. A bird will fly past and she's done, you know? Yeah, motivation for running for mayor.
Honestly, enough people told me I should run for mayor and my ego said, yeah, I can do that.
Okay, and when it didn't come to fruition, was that a relief?
Yeah, so the first week after the election, so I saw Jason's schedule and my husband had just started shift work for the first time that week.
Oh, yeah.
We'd never done shift work before in our house,
yep.
You know, with 2 younger kids. And I looked at what Jason was doing and I just like thought, I've dodged a bullet. Yeah. And I really reflected on that because it really was just people saying you should do it.
Yeah.
I'd only been on council for 2 years. That was enough experience. You know, most of that, well, not most of it, but a lot of that was during COVID. So we weren't actively learning to be counsellors because we were just in kind of a caretaker mode. So, yeah, it was just ego, really. I mean, and, you know, people people wanted a female mayor. People wanted a change after Gary Brennan. So there were lots of things. And people, I guess, maybe saw, that diversity box being ticked. And so there were, lots of really nice things. I mean, people were really supportive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's rewind a bit. So what's the motivation to be a counsellor? Because I had a very similar trajectory. Like, the only reason I learnt what counsellors do is because so many people told me you should run for council. And then you're like, okay, well, what is it? You go to a council meeting, you're like, oh, so you just sit around and say yes and no. And then you learn, oh, no, well, he doesn't like her and she's in bed with him and this person's trying to make this happen and they're only there for this. And then hang on. Zoom out. That's what the whole world is doing. I didn't realize that's what's happening in our little beautiful Bunbury. Then you realize, you drive past the city of Bunbury doing something, maintenance over here, and you're like, oh, if we traverse that decision back, it actually happened at a council meeting. So tell me, how did you find yourself even thinking about being a counsellor?
So I was ready to go back to work. The kids were a bit older and I was looking for a job that was flexible to fit around family life. And a friend said, why don't you be a counsellor? I went, no, not for me. Because, which is everyone's response. Oh, not council, got such a bad reputation. But then I sort of looked into it and I landed on thinking, well, it'll probably be, worst case scenario is I'll make lots of contacts, increase my networks and be able to land a job after it.
Yeah.
And I had a feeling that I could probably get more done on the outside as a community member than on the inside as a counsellor.
Huge.
Yeah, but I'll give it a go. You
Yep.
never know. Things might. I'm happy to be proven wrong. So for me, I was already, embedded in community life and, connecting people and ideas and trying to make things happen. So it was kind of, I guess, a natural progression to think about something like council.
Yeah.
But,
What sort of things were you involved in at that stage?
So I'd started the Bunbury Chinese New Year Festival at that stage.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. And, involved with, footy and basketball and all the kids' activities and soccer and things like that. So, my friends would always laugh because, I just spend my whole life having coffees, which was really just talking to everyone around town about different ideas for Bunbury.
Me and you both,
Yeah, how to make it happen and how, how to connect people to kind of take it the next step, which is why I guess, talking about the Bunbury Artificial Reef, that's a great opportunity to help someone, like Troy Bodigal to further his project.
Yeah.
Is to get around him with some support and connect him with the right people, and for us to, scaffold him.
Yeah, for sure.
On that journey.
For sure. We're definitely going to come back to Troy as well. So just for the sake of the listener, you and I don't really know each other.
No.
We met for the first time last Thursday night with a group of people who were learning about Troy's project. Troy's also been on the podcast.
Yes.
And I just hung shit on him for being old for 2 hours, I think.
He said something like that.
Yeah.
I haven't told him I'm here today.
Actually, and this is the thing, like, again, I met Troy through going out for coffee. That whole going out for coffee thing started when I said I want to start like thinking about running for council. I got given a list of names of people to sit down with, and then every time I sat down with that person, I'd ask them, who's 2 people you think I should sit down with? And I end up sitting down with heaps of people, literally heaps of people, dozens of people, all these names. I'd come home every time I finished the coffee, I'd come home, write everything I could remember about what they told me, just so you got like, reference points. When I went to this person, artificial reef, counsellor, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
And Troy was one of those people. His name got mentioned like 2 or 3 times. I met this dude, brought him on the pod, one of the very early guested podcasts, which was, I found it the other day, I think it was 2 years ago.
Okay.
And been in sort of contact ever since. And he hit me up while I was in Japan. He's like, man, we should catch up for a coffee. I'm like, let's catch up for a podcast, And then, the past sort of, since that podcast, his name has just been popping up left, right, and centre for me, and then got invited to that thing the other night. So, point is, we met each other for the first time the other night, and we actually had a really interesting conversation about the role of masculinity in a modern society.
Yes.
Which is also it's a bottomless pit of a topic at the moment. I didn't realise how passionate I was until I was talking to Sue about it and then talking to you about it. I'm like, I have an opinion here.
Yeah,
you know?
okay. What's your opinion?
Well, my opinion is if I wind it back far enough, I'm so confused about it that I think part of my willingness for transparency and vulnerability is to explore what masculinity is. My dad is the baddest man I've ever met. Like, he's tough, covered in tattoos. He's just he's like the pinnacle of a superhero, you know. And every boy and their father goes through idolize, demonize, and humanize. You spend all your childhood idolizing your dad, and then one day you turn around and realize he's just a man, he's just a human, and you're like, you lied to me, and he didn't lie to you. You just overshot what he is. And then after that demonized phase, you tend to go through a humanized phase where you're like, it's actually my mate, my best mate. That's who this is. And I've gone through those stages, and he is now essentially my best mate. And the thing that I wrestled with most of my childhood and then into my adolescence was that I was his son, so I must be bad. You know, not bad as in a negative connotation, but tough, mean. You know what I mean? Have strong hands. Not saying that he has a short temper, but figure things out with actions rather than words. And I had this internal struggle that I didn't know was going on, that was ballooning into weird areas of my life, into my relationships and into how I would problem solve and how I would kind of navigate the world. And I come to realize after a while, I'm actually very empathetic. I feel everything around me, and I feel it so much. I have daily instances where I'm brought to tears over nothing. You know, most recently, the smell of these flowers completely derailed what I was doing. I'm like, I just can't believe that they could possibly smell at all, let alone like this, you know? And so I actually believe that in a way that's more masculine than beating your chest and winning a fight, you know? There's something more masculine to accepting this broad spectrum of feelings and of reactions and responses and handlings of your life, you know? And then we sort of mentioned this the other day, through having role models like Joe Rogan, who is also ripped and also very emotionally intelligent and very eager to be vulnerable and learn and to say I don't know what you're talking about. Can you please explain that? Not just pretend that you know and keep moving. And I think through role models like that in my life, I found this middle point where I'm like, okay, there's this far into the spectrum and then this far into the spectrum, you know, and one of them is this rough, tough, burly, punch your way through the wall, and the other end is, paint your nails and, do whatever. And there is actually a comfortable spot in the middle, you know, and I think when I look around and see how other males are relating themselves to the world and the three masks you wear, the one that is for everyone, the one that's for your friends, and the one that's just for you. And I think the mask that I see that guys wear that's for everyone, I think a lot of them are lying to themselves in the way that they present themselves. And it's out of fear that they're not going to be accepted for being a little bit less manly, being a little bit less male, whatever that means, being a little bit less masculine. And in fact, the thing that they're scared of showing is actually true masculinity.
Who they'd like to be.
Who they'd like to be and who they'd be comfortable rocking up as. Because if you're comfortable when you rock up, then you're free to be the best possible version of you. And in whatever application that is, if you're really good at woodworking, then you're never going to make your best piece of craft while you're busy pretending to be something else you're not. It might only hold you back 10%, but that's still 10% off perfect that you could have achieved. And you're going to waste your time doing this 10%. Who cares? Who cares? Because realistically, I mean, I'm sure you agree here, no one cares about anything. No one cares about you, you know?
Oh, look, when I feel really self-conscious, I just talk myself down and say, no one is thinking about you as much as you think they are.
Correct.
Or no one is looking at you as much as you think they are. They're just not that interested in you. And that's ego, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I get that totally. But how do you, this middle point that you have arrived upon, that is masculinity, how do you teach that to, to the next generation? My son's about to turn 14. I'm not sure how he feels because he's probably, not mature enough to even have those conversations yet. But, his father grew up in the 80s. That was a type of masculinity of a certain generation who doesn't necessarily, who's not watching Joe Rogan with him because Joe Rogan's not on his radar.
Right.
Because it's different age group, different, just... Whereas, someone like you, how old are you?
32.
32, yeah. I mean, probably dads between 30 and 35 are probably sitting on the couch watching Joe Rogan with
Do you know who
sons.
they're probably watching now, though? Me.
Oh, okay.
And I think that's what my job is.
Yeah.
I think that's that middle ground that you're talking about. Like, I didn't learn through my dad. I learned through the external source. And because of the way media is now and how we share information in a million different directions, and we're not just confined to learning what is in our household, in our street, in our town, in our community, we're actually expanded to everywhere, always, and at a moment's notice.
Yes, but I think that the main crux and the core values happens in the home.
For sure.
That's where all the reinforcement happens. So while our kids are looking at all this stuff outside the home, it's seeing what their parents do that is the biggest influence. So while, my son's looking at Joe Rogan, it'd be better if he was sitting there watching it with his father and hearing the comments that his dad makes to back up, those values, those family values and the right way to respond and to behave, and the conversation that starts between the two of you that reinforces the family's, values and things like that. So you accessing the dads to watch you with their son.
For sure,
I think is,
I think my initial response to that is like, just lead by example.
Yeah.
Because I think the big thing is like, and that is, as you say, that starts in the home, and I take on a responsibility now as a 32-year-old. My dad's 65 this year. I'm the adult now. I'm the one who's tethered to society in a more meaningful way. And I know that my dad learns through me by the way that I act around him. He had a business for 10 years. I've been in this business for 5 years. And I know that he's learning things about business, and I'm coming and saying like, hey, there's no more shark mentality, right? If there's another person with the same business as me, call me up. I'll help you. I don't care. I picked an industry that there's enough fish in the sea for everyone. Just chill, Dad's like, fuck them. It's like, all right, cool. But I think we're trying to have kids at the moment. So we're doing a lot of thinking about like the sort of parents we're going to be and the sort of lifestyle that we're going to lead. And obviously it's somewhat unique with what we've built here. We live and work from home, and, like I had to, a bit of backstory. I had a vasectomy for 8 years, and I've had to get a reversal, which is a massive thing. And so we've really like put steps in to get here. And now that when you start taking it that seriously, you probably start overthinking it a bit and going like, well, what type of dad am I going to be? And when this happens, and you see other things happen with other things happen with other people with their kids, and you go, how would I respond? What don't I understand about their situation that made them respond like that? And I think, to go off on a tangent a bit, there's a moment in everyone's life where consciousness sort of arrives, like obviously when you're born and you open your eyes and you experience well for the first time, you have sort of a human consciousness, but I think there's a spirit consciousness that wakes up at some point. And some people it's really early, and some people it never happens. And I think as a parent, you teach the human consciousness the best you can, which turns into a subconscious, right? That then goes, all right, when I take something off someone, what do I say? I say thank you. When I do something for someone else, I don't wait to be said thank you to. I keep moving because whatever. All these little sort of lessons that along the way, that if we break something, we pay for it. If we hurt someone, we apologize. These basic tendencies. So when something happens in life, when things happen in life, the automatic response that you have to do just to be a reasonable person. But the spiritual awareness that comes at that point, that magic moment where you go like, oh my goodness, I'm a human. I'm doing things. I'm an adult. Like what happened, right? I think that moment is more significant than the other one, because the other one's almost a given. Should you provide all the standard thing, mum, dad's in the house, everyone's healthy, everyone's got what they need, right? I think somewhere, and I know this is a crazy egotistical thing to say, but I think my job is to be the catalyst for that spiritual awakening for people. And I think part of that is making sure that the infrastructure of what that means to me is already established, so that when that happens and people go, oh, I've got 160 episodes to catch up on, and they go back and listen to all the things, all the trials and tribulations of everything that's happened in my life and business since I started recording this podcast, they have that thing to lean back on. I go, okay, well, I see here he made a massive stuff up and here's how he dealt with it. I see here someone did him wrong and here's how he responded with love, and here's X, Y, and Z. So I think the answer to your question is, how do you get the fathers to do that? I don't know. Maybe you have to spiritually awaken them to realize that just because they've done it that way forever doesn't necessarily mean it's the right way to do it.
Absolutely. But that's really hard to change.
Oh, it's impossible.
Yeah.
It's impossible.
So, I oscillate between moments of hope and despair, I guess. I know our son will turn out great because, there are two parents in the household who have the same values and, and we balance each other out, which then goes, on our children. But there are times where I just go, what are you thinking, and what was that response and why and things like that. And so no one's immune, but we're a pretty solid household and not all households are like that. So
Do you think dad is looking at you sometimes in your responses the same way?
He definitely takes his lead from me, and he said, I was comfortable to have a family because you were so comfortable with it.
Yeah.
So he definitely, defers to me over, I guess, parenting decisions. But yeah, we do come up against it sometimes, and we argue, have heated discussions in front of the kids. Not that often. And the kids originally thought we were fighting and got upset. But now that they're a bit older, they realise that it's just
conflict is a part of life.
Yeah, it's just strong opinions, and discussing it until you reach some sort of, happy
resolution,
place.
compromise, whatever it might be.
Yep. Walk away, whatever you need to do. But, in the end, we still will end up on the couch together after the conversation.
Oh, look, if mum and dad are in the house and you guys are having meals together and you're having conversations and there is conflict and there is resolution and there are happy times, you're already 99% better than the majority of the world at the moment, it feels.
Yeah, I know. And I guess I am judging, but it's not hard to do. And I just don't know why. I don't know why families give up on the basics, so easily. And not give up, let them go so easily.
I think that task that we're going to generalize for the sake of this, that thing you're talking about, it's not hard, but downloading Tinder is extremely easy. To go on Instagram and see all the options that you went to school with that, messaged you 15 years ago and would answer a message right now. And, all of that is a lot easier than looking the person who you should love, who you supposedly love in the eye and say, what's going on? Like, even if this is a 10-minute old problem or a 10-week-old problem or a 10-month-old problem, like, what is going on? Because there was something at the start that this was awesome. So how we, because we're talking about this point where people just go like, fucking throw the papers in the air, it's too hard, right? That's a point where you stare at the sun. Like, it's going to suck. But if you do that and you come over that, then you're like, look how deep that scar is, but it's now skin again, Because the thing is, if you walk away from it, that's just always going to scab up and keep bleeding. You're never going. If you never dealt with that, oh, she was crazy, so I had to go. Was she crazy? Was she? Or you can't resolve things. You can't figure out what's going on,
Yeah. If social media, trumps your family or members of your family, that is more familiar to you than the people in your family, then sorry, time to take a good hard look at yourself.
Yeah.
Like, you're with these people all the time, your children and your spouse or your partner or whatever, and they should be the easiest people to talk to, really. I don't know. And if they're not, then you got to change it. I mean, society's just going to, go to the dogs if we don't, pick up the basics like that again. And it's just discipline, just got to put your big pants on and.
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, it feels weird that you have to say that now. You know what I mean? It's like we're now being reminded, like, hey, if you want to have a healthy family, you need to do healthy family things. You need to have routine and structure and rhythm, and you need to understand that, there are going to be good times, there are going to be bad times, and also say Riz and I, we're in an interesting position because we live and work together. So we spend a lot of time together, but we're not together a lot, right? So we have very structured, like after 5 p.m, I am not allowed to talk about the business. Trust me, I've tried. I'm not allowed to. Sundays are our day, and then after, like I've got run club Saturday morning. After that, I'm hers, and then every instance that I get where I can take her for coffee in the morning or, it's like nothing going on. Like, should we go for a drive? Should we take Lou for a walk? Should we do this too? Like, you have to take all those things. Now, do I want to do those things in that moment? No. I want to keep building my business. That's how I'm geared, right? The reason that this is happening is because I'm like that.
Yep.
But there is longevity in exercising the skill of being a good fiance, a good husband, a good father, a good friend.
That's right.
And that's the thing. Like, you lift the weight, you're like, it's too heavy, I don't want to lift. It's like, do you want big arms? Lift the weight. Like, it's all the same thing.
Sacrifice.
Right. Right.
When your kids come along, you will be sacrificing all over the place. It's okay because they're your children, and because there's that longevity in that this sacrifice will lead to fantastic law-abiding citizens who are going to go off into the future and make their own law-abiding citizens and keep the human population going. So
hopefully there's like a percentage. It's meant to get better every generation. It's like hopefully your contribution to that percentage rising is adequate. It's like as long as we reach that standard, we've done well. Which circling back to what we're saying, the reality of that at the moment is like just mum and dad stay together.
Yeah.
Just deal with things.
I know, and and it's not that easy, and so many things test you as a couple. They really do, and I don't know, it's hard.
I think there's definitely some, I guess you'd say, like understanding. My big thing, I told you a bit about the trajectory of how we got here. One thing was when you first start dating someone, right? You meet them in whatever way, like we met on Tinder. And when I went and met her face to face, I was like, oh, this chick's cool. And I had night shift the next night. What'd I do? Call up, I'm sick. I go hang out with her. And then what do you think happened the next night? I'm still sick. Hang out with her. And they had my 4 days off. Where do you think I was during those 4 days? I was with her, right? I'm like, I eventually got to go back to work. I went home early on my first day back so I could hang out with her, right? There's this, like, obviously very lust-driven fuel to but like everyone knows this feeling, you know what I mean? Like, that's where it starts. And you have this, like, beautiful, anywhere from 6 days to 6 months of, like, the honeymoon period where you just, like, everything about them is just overwhelming. It's euphoric, right? And then life comes back and you start hanging out with your friends again. And then you remember that you've got these hobbies that you're really interested in right up until 30 seconds before you met her or him, right? You start doing them again. And then you're back into the routine of your job. And then all of a sudden it's just someone that is in your life, but primarily you do two things, sleep and work, right? And then they fill in the gaps. And then you just live the rest of your life. And you might go on a holiday once or twice a year where you like realize how much you can't spend time with them all day, every day, and it's such a weird truth that no one's like, for me, it's glaringly obvious. I've been very aware of this for years. I'm not sure if you like your person or if you really liked them at the start and now you're stuck with them, right? And then all of a sudden you go on Instagram and you're like, fuck, she's pretty hot. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just saying, and yeah, she's cool, but she's pretty hot. Like, I've been through that routine before. Like, I've done that as a young man.
Yeah.
Right? But that's the thing, like, especially like the average job for a dude now is working 12 hours at a time and typically fly in, fly out. So I'm not even going to sleep with her. I'm not sharing meals with her. If I'm lucky, I'm getting 20 minutes on the phone interrupting maths, you know? So I see it as, well, you can test that every now and then. And that's what we did. You know, we saved up our money. It's like, let's live in a caravan. Because do you remember when we had all the time, like on my days off, we do this, we're doing that. And then I got a job where I'm working night shift like 8 days a week apparently. And I'm just not seeing her or my friends. Couldn't do my hobbies. I'm like, this sucks, right? Like, this sucks. What am I going to be, a truck driver? I hate everyone that's a truck driver. Look at them. They don't have anything valuable to say. I'm full of ideas. And then we lived in a caravan for a year and a half. And it was unreal. I had my best friend back. And I realized, like, in the middle of all that, we got Louie the dog. And I realized, like, whatever I do from now on, it's even if it's making 1/10 of the money that I was before, as long as I can survive, I got to keep these two close to me because I really like that.
Yeah, that's great. I wish most guys were like that, or most couples. You're right. You just, because life just, just ticks over, and all of a sudden, you're 80 and,
and you've just done the same thing.
Yeah. And it does. It takes conscious decision to think about your other half more than you currently do. I remember Will Smith said something, the actor, interesting. He was asked about this was years ago, his successful marriage. And he said, when I go to work, I think he just won an award for his acting. He said, when I go to work, I give it 100%. And that's exactly what I should be doing with my marriage. I should be giving it as much attention and application as I do to my acting. I thought, and most people don't. They go to work and they will commit to being there for those hours and commit to the tasks they have to do and go the extra mile on a project if they need to. But if anyone gives that much in their relationship sometimes.
I know dudes that go so hard in weightlifting, they take anabolic steroids that they buy off the internet. Right? Like, I know those dudes. It's like, if you took your friendships and relationships as seriously as what you did growing your muscles, it would be crazy what you could accomplish.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
Like, I think, let's go back to some of the responses hubby says to the kids, right? So that is like, I've obviously have a very like specific like interest in just a few things, like, business, relationship, doing wheelies. That's all I really sort of care about, And because of that, I've learned how to dial in my specific strengths into those things and also isolate weaknesses and then give them attention, so you get like a bit of a spectrum of ability. So then when, something weird happens in a relationship, you're like, maybe we need a new system so that when she gives me that facial expression, I know that I'm a dickhead somehow and I need to figure out why, right? I think the big thing with guys is, and the reason why they're so good at having jobs and being breadwinners and being, providers, is that at their core, that's what they're meant to be. Right? It's like, as a man, you're meant to go up to the top of the hill and kill the saber-toothed tiger, protect the family, bring home the meat, right? And there's something in that the soft skill of knowing what to answer in that moment, especially when fatigue is involved. And like, do you like this house? Do you like this house? Because like, I've really significantly helped this house being a thing, And then it's like down to a moment where it's like, such and such is yelling and such and throws a ball across the room and, hey, fucking cut it out, It's like that moment isn't important or as important in the masculine perspective as it is the feminine, because the feminine is like, hey, you're providing an example right now. And the masculine is like, hey, I'm trying to watch TV.
I've been at work all day and I'm really tired.
Right?
Yeah.
And X, Y, and Z. And now this little moment that is just like a distraction to me isn't a learning or a teaching moment. it's actually the complete opposite. It's like, actually, this is just my moment that's being interrupted. And man, like trying to, I know for myself, trying to develop the skill that when these moments occur, going like, oh, that's one of them. I need to pull my head in. Otherwise, I'm going to make this about the totally wrong thing, and this is going to turn into something that it shouldn't, and then Sunday's ruined, you know?
So why does it come so, I shouldn't say so naturally, why do women do that better than men? Is it just, you know, basic instinct, like you've just said?
That's a great question.
Women around the hearth, they're with you know, the kids and the aunties all day, so they know how to read people better and multi-skill across, you know, lots of people and lots of personalities, whereas the men, singular, chase that saber-toothed tiger, come home and that's their job done. I don't know.
I don't know what the, you know, I'm a dude with a podcast who prints T-shirts. I think I just have a interesting tap into the infinite awareness that allows me to sound smart on occasion, you know. But I think there's definitely something that like exists in the realm of, for some reason, like most, like I've really picked up the fact that like most females, in my experience, even when I know I'm wrong, don't call me out. And most of my very good male friends, all of them, definitely call me out. They don't even let me finish a sentence. They're like, no, you're a dickhead, here's why. And I think there's something there. I think there's something there for the fact that like women might, for the sake of the moment, let that go and see it as a learning moment for later on and address it later on. Whereas males are quite immediate in their need to sort of like fix that problem there and then. It's not necessarily because I am a dickhead. It's more along the lines of, hey, there's a hole in the ground. Can we cover the hole so no one trips over? You know? And then
the women are going, I've got too many other things to do first. I'll deal with that hole later.
Oh yeah, I think the women are more like, oh, just don't walk that way. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like it's not a bad thing, but there's definitely like we don't have to deal with that right now.
To jump on it right now.
Right. Like I'm happy to wash 3 dishes at a time to make sure the sink is always clean. Whereas, you know, like Riz is happy for it to be like an end of the day job.
Or when everyone's feeding time at the zoo and the mum just says, this is not the time to talk about it.
Yeah.
Let's get the kids sorted and then we'll have that conversation.
Oh, heaven forbid I try and have a conversation in the kitchen ever. Man, it's the quickest way to be told where I belong, you know? But yeah, so what was the question? Why are women so much naturally better at at identifying that situation?
Well, I mean, it's a basic instinct and we talk about that all the time. It's like it, you know, comes from, you know, human, when, you know, man first, you know, evolved, or is it, or I guess the follow-up question is it a learnt thing? Can it be an adaptation? Can males and females evolve if enough people do it to for men to be more like women and women to be more like men, I guess.
I think you know, there's this tradwife movement reoccurring at the moment where women are like, young women are like, yeah, I want a dude who provides and I stay home and keep the house clean. You know? Like,
really?
Yeah. Oh, is this news? Yes. This is a thing. So like, the pendulum has swung. Take my vote, give me the apron. Obviously dressing it up a bit for the conversation, but like, I know specifically, and I know about this because there's a name for it. I know that there's a name for it, the tradwife movement, because I'm trying to tradwife Larissa. I'm trying to get my business big enough that I can employ someone to take her job and then she can be a mum forever. That's the plan. Make enough money to get her in this house and let her do what she needs. If she wants to go get a job, like, cool. If she wants to work back for me, cool. But if she just wants to be a mum, even better. Keep having kids.
Absolutely. That's great. That's very noble. And I think that's perfect. I think women should be there for their children as much as they can while they're growing up.
That's it.
And,
right?
Yeah, but I can tell you after, 16 years of meal planning, 3 meals a day for 16 years and cleaning the house for 16 years, get a cleaner as well with that deal.
For sure. But how much? All right. So you have implied confidence in the way you talk about your children and their projected future based off the environment you've created for them, correct? Did that come from 16 years of being there?
Yeah. Yes.
There's no
absolutely.
handball to daycare. There's no such and such coming into the house and you going to work. You know, like there's no someone's looking after my kid for the majority of their childhood, right?
No, there's not. No.
That's the key.
Yep.
That's the key. The reason why I know I like hanging out with Riz is because I hung out with her and I figured it out. And I think that is less of a me thing and more of a human thing, because I promise you if I could have spent more time with my parents when I was younger, I would have. I would have lived in one house my whole childhood. And even if Dad was out providing, doing all the thing, Mum being there the whole time would have been massive. You know, I'm not saying that I had a weird childhood, but I didn't have an abnormal childhood. But if I had the option, even for Mum's sake, of just letting her and I have a closer relationship, then yes, let's do that.
Yeah. A lot I see, you know, my daughter and all, you know, she's 16, all the things, you know, that you're worried about for your 16-year-old daughters, you know, in terms of the boys that are going to come along or have come along. I just see her close relationship of having a good male in the household interacting with her is so significant. I can't even tell you the difference that could be for a young girl, having that paternal figure.
For sure.
You know, reflecting the right values with her future relationships with other men.
Yeah, 100%. I'm not that far off that experience of being a 15 to 21-year-old male talking to females, you know, and I don't know much about the females that had fathers in their life, but I can tell you a lot of the earlier relationships that I had, whether they've been short-lived or, you know, turn into proper relationships, they're all fatherless. And I'm not saying that I'm a bad person, but the dude covered in tattoos rocking up to take your daughter on the back of a Harley usually doesn't have a dad. You know, from my experience, heaven forbid I say something that might get me in trouble there, but that was, you know, and that has been a moment where I step back, I'm like, oh, she didn't either. Oh my goodness. I'm the constant here, you know, like how interesting is that?
Yeah.
You know?
Yep. That's how it used to be. And, you know, going back to your point about being at home for the kids, you know, back in our parents' day, you could live off one salary. You know, Dad could go to work and Mum could stay home.
Yeah.
Or, you know, at least be there when to get kids to school and home from school. And yeah, it's just, you know, a lot calmer. Whereas there's so many financial pressures that I understand that some families, like, you know, parents have to go back.
Oh, for sure. Just be a bad dude and figure it out. You know? Like, yeah, life sucks. It's always sucked. It's actually the best it's ever been right now, but it's always sucked in general. Life hasn't been this chill, but because we've had a bit of inflation lately, and I get it, it's not the right thing to say because there's people out there that can't make ends meet, and they got themselves in that situation. Somewhere along the way, they made that decision that led to the next thing. And, right? If I'm going to be as ambitious to say that I want my wife to stay at home and look after my children, then it is my responsibility to figure it out. And it's going to be hard.
Yeah.
You know? And that's fine. Because if the other option is I lose my kids to social media, daycare, and a school system that is not doing much, then who am I going to blame? You know? I went on that one Bunbury project and we derived that my quote was, live life as if your life depends on it.
Okay.
And it applies across the board. You know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, I'd love to get another job, but I can't because this and that. All right, cool. Well, if your life depended on it, would you do it? Of course. Well, then do that because it does. Because one day you're going to be 80 and you're going to be still driving a truck, you know? So it's I don't know. I throw myself out on a limb sometimes with these outrageous quotes, but I feel like at the same time, this is the spiritual awakening stuff where it's like, yeah, you're in the middle of a really crazy experience that has a time limit on it, you know?
I'd love to talk to you in 10 years' time when you've had your kids and they're a little bit older and I know, you probably hear this all the time, you know, everything changes once you have kids. And I'm not saying you're idealistic, but your time is not your own for the whole time that they're in your house, and that that ability to be with your own thoughts and develop your philosophies and things like that just becomes, you know, just grabs here and there where you know you can own half an hour is not enough to develop your you know, your inner self or your, you know, philosophies on life. So I love the way you're talking now, and it'd be interesting to talk in you know,
for sure,
further down the track to see whether you've managed to carve out some, you know, a good part of the day in your life where you can continue to influence people like this. Yeah,
obviously, like I, from every parent, get that. You know, it's like everything changes the whole lot. I get it. You know,
I know, because they're, you know, they're part of you, and every time you look at them, you know,
I get lost looking at my dog, so I can't imagine what.
You wait.
Yeah. As I said, like I'm the biggest softie. I'm hopeless. You know what I mean? So I can't imagine I'll be the dad that's crying at everything. I know that. That's all right.
Yeah.
But I think my automatic response for this is as a young man, I made a decision that I'm not going to have kids, so much so that I had surgery to make sure it didn't happen. And I got that done really young, you know. And then having the whole, like, I'm never having kids, I'm never getting married. And I really, like, for the longest time, I thought I was going to die at 27. I just had a feeling in me. I was like, I'm going to be part of the 27 club, you know. Ridiculous. And then I turned 28. And I'm like, oh, shit, all right. And yeah, then getting to a point where, like, you know, I was sitting on the couch or watching 90 Day Fiancé. Have you seen that before? Very basic concept. It's Americans marrying people from other countries. They have 90 days to get married when they enter the country, that other person, for the first time. And it just documents that 90 days between arriving and getting married and how true that love sort of is. I remember watching it being like, man, these guys shouldn't get married. That's not what marriage is about. You know, that's actually sort of the opposite of what marriage is about. In fact, if anyone was going to get married, it'd be us. And I thought, oh, that goes against one of my pillars of who Jake is. And I spoke about it with mum and dad the next day, and like 6 months later, we're engaged.
Wow.
And then in that process where you're like, oh, I'm paying off this ring I can't afford, in the depths of the most amount of debt that I've ever been in, not having any money, trying to make things work with this business, you know. And I was like, oh, I'm actually, like, all these things that I'm learning, it's starting to become relevant why I would be a dad, you know. And then I went from this, like, no, I'm just going to have heaps of motorbikes and be that cool dude with no brothers or sisters. I'm not even anyone's fun uncle. I'm just a weird guy with long hair that knows how to rollerblade, you know. Maybe I should be a dad. And, like, starting to, instead of argue it, defend it. And then I got to a point where it's like, actually, if there's anyone who should be a dad, I think it is me, because I got this great idea of what it shouldn't be and what it should be. And you realize a lot of the like tenets actually cross over with business, they cross over with faith. And it got to a point where I was like, you know, Riz and I would talk about it so much. I'm like, I'm just going to go to the urologist and just kind of have that conversation. And sure enough, went to the urologist, booked in a date, and then it just happened, you know. And now it's like we're fully ready to have kids. I'm on preconception vitamins and I'm sober for the 5th week straight. Like, weird time of my life, very peculiar. The point that I'm making is I'm going to go out on a limb again and say most dudes don't do that much preparation.
No.
And while I don't know what it is, I do know what the unknown is in general, because I do it every day with business. Like, business requires it. And while business is emotionless and business doesn't have any real, like, tethering to your life other than going broke, which I'm also not scared of. You know, it's like, obviously the worst thing with the children would be like you not be there for them, or they not be there anymore, which would be devastating, I imagine. Like, I only can understand what it means to me as someone who doesn't have kids. But I've had like 32 years of preparation that's got me to the thing of deciding that my intention is this, and understanding that my intention has so much, like, depth in what it means. And like, all right, if you really want to be the guy who thinks you can generate millions of dollars and like, all right, try it. But I do know if you are going to be that guy, that doesn't start by going, well, I guess I'll see what will happen. You know, it does start with a very specific, direct, this is the goal. This is how it's going to go down. Here's the steps that I think are involved between at least here and getting pregnant. You know, and so far, I'm sort of overachieved on every step. You know, like I'm already in the place where I thought if I could get there, I'd be happy. So now it's like, oh, we may as well fucking just go hard now, you know? And at the very worst, she's going to have to press T-shirts while she's a mother. You know what I mean? It's not all bad, you know? But no, I understand. I try to understand what you're saying because it is obviously the thing where it's like, all right, buddy, let's see how you go when you haven't slept for a year. You know, let's see how you're tracking when your kid's yelling back at you for the bloody 6 days straight. I get it.
Oh, and I have no doubt you'll be doing this, but you'll be talking about something different because your kids will consume you, and there is so much joy in them, and ensuring their safety and protection, and you know that, and you know, obviously there's so much fodder to talk about that online and with people and that sort of thing. And it's endlessly fascinating.
Oh, that's what I'm excited for, the consumption of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To just be so, like, I think I'm overwhelmed. I feel like I'm overwhelmed by my business right now. And I just like, every now and then you're like, this isn't that hard. You know what I mean? Like you still just go like, oh, it's too much. I turn the computer off and I'll go for a walk. It'll be, 10:30 on a Tuesday morning. It's like, there's no turning the child off at 10:30 on a Tuesday morning, you know? That's
right. No, they're, I highly recommend it. Parenthood. Yeah. Sounds like you're going to be great.
Oh, I'm excited. I'm very excited. Let's go. I want to full circle this back to being in the position of a counsellor. So you did one term because you didn't get voted in the second time.
No, I decided not to run. So
okay.
Yeah, again. So obviously you have to renominate and go back into the pool.
Yeah.
To be elected again. So no, it wasn't for me. It was, like I said, I loved all the the project stuff and things like that, but most of it's not that. So, people think you get to sit around and talk about these amazing things that are going to happen and make decisions about that, and there's not a lot of that. You get to hear about a lot of things, but your direct involvement is not really required. Most of it is reviewing policy, procedure, budgets, and they call it when you do your counsellor training, noses in, fingers out. So, as if you're in a helicopter, look down, look around, but you can't get involved. A lot of it's what they would call operational, which is the staff side.
Yep.
Doing the operations, that's what the CEO looks after, and the mayor looks after counsellors. So, yeah. So
you said before that there's more value in making decisions from the outside than affecting decisions from the inside.
Well, I feel like I can get more done on the outside than on the inside because quite limited in the decisions that you can make in council.
Yeah.
Whereas from the outside, I guess, you have one of the things I used to find frustrating was that everything had to pass the pub test, so they talk a lot about conflict of interest, transparency, things like that. So, coming from my parents having a small business where if you wanted to do something, you would call your mate, get a good rate and get it done.
Yeah.
But you can't do that in council, even though it would save council money.
Yeah. You're helping out your mate. It's like, brother, we're getting it 20% cheaper. Why can't I help out my mate?
Yeah. Well, why can't we just get it cheaper? Because I know someone who can do it cheaper. No, you can't do that. So, I found that really frustrating because to me, particularly in Bunbury, it's not what you know, it's who you know. So you can get a lot of stuff done by your own networks. So that's why I feel I can get a lot more done outside because I couldn't use those networks inside council because it's not kosher.
Well, this is what we were talking about the other night with Troy's project. There's I'm sure there was enough money in that room that night to get that done.
Yep.
Like if everyone was like, well, good, this is a good thing. We think it's good for tourism. We think it's good for the environmental and we get to surf as well. Like, can we just we just do this, you know? I think that was a question that was sort of being asked on repeat, is just like, what exactly needs to happen here? Like, do you think with your experience as a counsellor that this is actually something that can happen in the foreseeable future?
Yeah, I think it can. Look, all local governments, you know, across WA just don't have any money, and state government keeps passing responsibilities onto them.
Right.
Bunbury in particular, you know, is surrounded by 3 other shires, but we don't take any of their rates. So Bunbury actually services, you know, Shire of Harvey, Shire of Capel, Shire of Dardanup, with, you know, the sports centre and Breck and the art gallery and you know, and the CBD, but we are not reimbursed, I guess. There's no contribution from the other shires to support all those services.
Is that purely just by having those available to the people of the surrounding areas? Is that what you mean by like Bunbury supplies with those things? Or is it actually like a financial exchange between shires?
No, there's no financial exchange. So something like the sports centre is, after they did a bit of data collection, is mostly used by people from Daryelup.
Right, Shire of Capel.
Yeah. But Shire of Capel don't pay any contribution towards maintaining the sports centre, supporting, you know, the staff through wages. So even though their shire are the main users, Bunbury puts the bill for lots of those things.
And then I guess all of your like south side ovals, all that, I guess that's
Water, landscaping, ovals. So we have rates for 30,000 residents, but, you know, Greater Bunbury is getting close to 100,000. So we're really limited. We are looked at as the, you know, the capital of the Southwest and expected, I guess, to provide infrastructure as the capital, but we just don't have the rate base to be able to do that.
Yes.
So for me, and something like the artificial reef, I think, you know, a small council like Bunbury would rather see the state government step in like they did with Bunbury's all the waterfront. So that's a state government project, and the local council had very little to do with that, and certainly not financially. So that would be the ideal thing, would be the state government to step in and take it on as a project.
Yeah, and also just like a little, maybe the same amount or maybe double the amount on top for jetty baths. That'd be sweet. I'd really love to hang down there on a Sunday where my mates just being like, hey, we live here, you know?
Yeah.
I think that's a big thing. Like, even, don't get me wrong, like we'll go down to Rocky Point, have a barbecue, you know, do the thing, and you're like, this is pretty cool. That jetty bars would 100% like put us on the worldwide map. Yeah, okay. You know, like we are in such a crazy position. This is the thing, like all of my sort of business community of friends, and then my, you know, close circle of friends, like I feel like between those people, like every corner of the world has been seen, and everybody agrees that Bunbury slaps. This is it. And then you talk to Tommy Dillon, and this is nothing compared to what it was 20 years ago. He openly says this on the podcast.
Yeah.
And you go, all right, well, if it's awesome right now, how much potential do we have?
Oh, Jake, you know what? I was born in Bunbury, and I've been hearing all my life, the boom's coming, the boom's coming. The boom has never come.
Yeah.
There is some inertia in Bunbury. I don't know. I don't know what it is. Well, I do, but I'm probably not going to talk about it here.
Yeah, no, for sure. Look, I think there's this idea that Bunbury's a tourist town. I think Bunbury's a mining and construction town that has the potential to be a tourist town. I think if you Google things to do in Bunbury, the top result is go to the farmer's market.
I know.
So the best thing you can do here is spend money on fruit and veg. That's what we're saying. Like, that blows my mind. Like, I don't know what went wrong with the Dolphin Discovery Centre, but it's really not like, it's whenever someone says, oh, you know, I'm coming to Bunbury, what should I do? It's like, you should definitely go for a walk every morning and night and wait for the dolphins to show up. Don't go and pay $400 or whatever they want to swim with the dolphins. I mean, what are we doing, guys? You know, we don't need to absolutely, you know, rip the pockets out of people that come into Bunbury for the sake of swimming with dolphins that they can see every other day. Then you've got things like the beach, which as a local, like mates want to go to the beach once every 3 days in the middle of summer, and you're down at the beach doing the thing, you're like, oh, this is up there, one of the best beaches, especially the fact that like it's a hop, skip and a jump for me away, and it's literally one of the best beaches, you know?
Yeah.
Crazy. And then on top of that, like I've started a business from nothing in a market that didn't exist with what I do and had nothing but continued growth for the past 5 years. Like, talk about primed for, I don't know what that thing is that it's primed for, but as far as I'm concerned, like it seems to be like metaphorically gold in the streets if you are tuned into looking for gold, you know?
Well, see, what worries me is that obviously we've had a great high street for many, many years, but a lot of those businesses were owned by older people who took that COVID opportunity to wind their businesses up.
Yep.
We don't have younger crew like you at your age, entrepreneurial, coming from outside of Bunbury to come and take over, building up that high street again, or that CBD. We just don't. I mean, there's comments out there like, oh, I wouldn't touch Bunbury now with the bypass road, you know, still the bogan factor.
Yeah.
It's just not a place of choice for you know, younger entrepreneurs to come, and what do we do without those people? How do the businesses, you know, create a thriving community that we used to have? We definitely used to have it. But back to your point about tourism, I don't know, Bunbury chose, you know, many, many years ago before our time to be a business town. How do you retrofit a business town for tourism? Because that's what we're trying to do, and it's not working.
Yeah. So it's very good because what you've done here is created a heap of roads that all lead to the same spot, and they lead to like all of them are meeting at a dead end rather than a roundabout. I think that's a problem. So yes, you have a bunch of the old crew that have gone like, cool, dust their hands. I'm not in business. I've got my 4 properties and 3 nice cars, and I've looked after my family. You've got a bunch of kids that are in school saying, yeah, whatever, miss, I'm going to work in the mines. I'm going to get 200 grand a year first year, right? And I know that because my mum and dad, who have been separated my entire life, that's what they do, right? So when we go back to crappy relationships in their life and the idea that material possession is the god of the modern child, right? So it's like, what phone have you got? What are you doing this weekend? Did you get a photo at that place or did you post it, right? And a well-paying job facilitates that. And if in 5 years' time I'm going to go and work on the mines, then why would I care about algebra right now, right? So, and this is coming from someone who had, I mean, I had a dad who owned a business in mining. It's like, I can't pay attention at school even if I want to, but even if I did, my dad drives hot rods. What are you going to do? You know, like I'll just go do that. If that's the worst that happens, I'll go do that. And I think that's a bit of a, like, how do you go, like the two things there are like, how do we get those old people creating an environment for those young people that's attractive, right? Because the more I learned about business, the more entrepreneurial I became. And then you get to this point where I said before, you know, I'm at the point now where I said if I got there, I'd be happy. So what else is possible? And now it's like, well, okay, well, how do we create systems? How do we automate? How do we get more people employed? How do we motivate people? And how to, you know, and part of the answer is doing this podcast, you know, and I would hope that this podcast then encourages other young crew to go like, well, if he's got a podcast, I don't think he's very interesting. I reckon I could do it better. Prove it. Like I fully want you to, you know. I think there is part of that roundabout that I'm talking about is I think because of the nature of what's been left behind for us in Bunbury, like the proactive idea of like, hey, can we offer young people like 6-month commercial leases that are hard enough to keep them there but soft enough to not scare them, to give them like a leg up? And I'm not talking about a 5-year Prosa lease where you get the first year for free and they get stung for the last 4, right? And I'm not saying stung. I mean, he's doing what he's got to do. He runs a great business. Cool, you know? But I definitely feel like there's this sort of mentality that like having a business and starting a business and being in the business world, it's not that it's even scary anymore. It's in a complete other book of not even knowing what that means. The idea of being someone who does put it all on the line and say, I'm just going to try it, and if it doesn't work, that's okay, and if it does work, it might pay off bigger than what I could ever imagine. That people just don't think like that anymore, and especially because bigger than what I can ever imagine is earning $4,000 a week and driving a Ranger. Who cares?
But so who are these people that are going to take up these, peppercorn lease deals?
Great question. I think this. So before I answer that question, let's go to there's two things here. Me and my 3 friends getting into council, right? Versus me and my three friends getting really rich and then affecting Bunbury from the outside rather than the inside, which is the same concept that you're talking about, right?
Yep.
I think what it looks like problem is I got a million ideas and I can only execute one at a time every 5 years, But for example, if I wanted to create a really cool design, I don't make the design. I go to Mania, I find their design class and I say, hey, I'm running a competition, $100 for the best design. We'll put it on a t-shirt. You get 5% of all the takings. There's your traineeship. There's the kid that you bring on. All of a sudden, he's doing all your design work. And you go, hey, man, instead of being a part of my business, how about I sell you heat press and I'll do prints at this cost and do all the rest and then off you go. So instead of having the direct thing of you need to take on all the responsibility, you need to come up with the idea, you need to, do the thing, you then incentivize, all right, what are the businesses that already exist that could create subcontract opportunities? And also, I don't know anything. This is just what it feels like. Create subcontract opportunities that would then allow that person to grow their own business within a business. This is when you start talking about I could have 5, micro businesses, franchisees sort of thing under me doing parts of my business for me. And if there was a place where you could go, yes, and you can move into this spot, I know you're going to make money because I know it makes money. I know the percentage of your money you're going to make is definitely going to cover what they're asking for that. And if you gear this right, then you can actually make heaps more than that. And then you've got yourself set up for the next 6 months. And yes, I don't know if it'll last 10 years. I don't know if it'll last 6 months, but I didn't know it was going to last 6 months when I started.
It's a great idea. Absolutely. I really like that idea. Are there enough people like you that think like that?
Yeah, it's a pyramid scheme, isn't it? It is. I honestly, the problem is when, I'm sure you had the same, when people come to you and they're like, hey, Amanda, love your passion. You've got great ideas. You're talking to everyone. You should run for council. You should be the mayor. What do you do with that? Then you get into council, you're like, I can't fucking do anything. I can just say yes and no, and that's it. And I think the thing that I'm faced with is on top of trying to continuing to build this and a podcast and be a father one day and get married and pay off this house, hopefully get a new car someday. And I want to change the world.
Yeah, no.
I don't know what the answers are, but I do know that there are kids out there who are buying Pokemon cards and selling them again. There are kids out there who, if it was a literal thing that they saw someone else doing, they would pick lemons and sell lemonades during summer. I know those kids still exist because that's a human thing, And I mean, you got Alex Hormozy, Gary Vaynerchuk, list the billionaires now that are going here are the steps. Go to garage sales, buy the shit for $5, sell it on eBay for $100, repeat until you have enough money. Those things do exist, and the people who follow these accounts, I mean, we've got young people in business as an offshoot of the Bunbury Chamber of Commerce, right? I was at an event on Friday night where there was 20 people there, 20 young people, and the majority of them don't have a business. They have an intention to start business for themselves.
Okay.
Maybe there's a start.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe if you had, I know Ben Small was there doing his thing. Yep. It's say he's elected and he comes in and says, hey guys, we're working on this thing where you could get 6 months. It's going to cost you $1,000 a month. You get in there. I know if someone came to me right now and said, we can put you in a shop for $1,000 a month.
Yep.
Oh, we would move our stuff tomorrow.
Yep.
We're at a point now, we've been at that point now for so long where I bought a new house because it was better than getting a commercial spot and then having to buy a house in 5 years' time. I bought a house with a big enough workshop so I could expand into this. We've been here 6 months. We've already outgrown it. You know what I mean? I do believe that thing, that essence, that entrepreneurial spirit is something that is a human thing that's a 1 in every 20 kids. But if these kids don't know that these options are available, they look at my clips from a distance and go, yeah, but he's different.
That's right, yeah. Or he had a leg up, or he got lucky.
There's something I don't know.
That won't happen to me,
Yeah, they didn't see me crying in my caravan, wondering how I'm going to make it work. Laid up for 3 weeks, recovering from a bloody, like all these things that you don't know that you assume. And it's not until you go like, oh, this dude is actually like, he grew up in Jalora, like he'd fill in the blank, And yeah, I think there's a massive gap between great idea and execution. But I mean, I'm through having these conversations, slowly getting enough pieces of the puzzle to go like, there is something there, but there's got to be some play from the council, and there's got to be a real like. I think the big problem now is through the course of councils doing council things, the time that it takes for things to happen just continuously gets slower, because every time something happens, we have to have a solution for it to make sure it doesn't happen again. Like on a mine site, if someone trips over going upstairs, well, now we've got to have handrails, and then someone trips over going upstairs again, so now you've got to be harnessed in, and someone trips over again, so now you've got to have a lift, and all of a sudden it's like we've gone from just being able to do the job to having to do all this other stuff, and that same structure is basically government,
Yeah, it's a broken system for sure. Yeah, and another reason to, help Troy along on his journey is to try and navigate from the outside rather than the inside. But I think, for council, those public-private partnerships are the way to go. I don't know how successful that has worked for Bunbury or whether they've done anything like that. But even, so residential in the CBD would really activate that night economy
for
the
sure.
town centre. But apparently it's too expensive to build per square foot in the city compared to, all the land in Tringdale and Bass and all over the place. So developers are not interested. But what about a partnership with the city where, I don't know how that would work, but surely that's got to be an option. And I just don't know whether, there are entrepreneurial people within local government.
Yeah, well, that's another thing.
Think like that.
Like play out the situation where us three get into council. Now you've got three people who understand business in a position of essentially business. And I don't know a lot about the current standing of councillors, but I mean, how many there are who understand the basics of like what business is?
Well, there are some councillors who argued during my time that council is not a business.
What is it?
It's a service to the community. The council's not meant to make money.
Why?
So you shouldn't treat it like a business.
Hang on. This is crazy. So So the majority, like if you boil down what council is doing, it's essentially deciding how to spend money though, right?
Yeah.
So there are things happening. For things to happen that cost money. So it's transaction. So the basics of business, in my opinion, is relationships and transactions. And hopefully you do the right transactions so that you come out profitable. That's the hard part, right? That should perfectly fit into the council. Relationships and transactions and making sure that you come out as profitable. Because if you come out as neutral, I don't think anyone really wins there except for the people that are getting paid. And if you come out as negative, then the whole exercise is kind of pointless, right? Because in order to keep moving forward, you need to have money in the bank to do that, whether that's getting money from the state or making money from the citizens or whatever it might be. It's like, it's definitely a business.
Well, I don't know. My understanding is that some things don't make money, but you have to provide them to the community as a service, such as the sports centre. I think it loses $1 or $2 million a year.
Right.
But that's never going to be profitable. So, yeah, you wouldn't run your business like that.
No. I mean, if it's not a business, then don't charge rates. Like it seems ridiculous. If it's purely about service, then councillors shouldn't be paid. The people sweeping the road should be doing it out of love. If it's purely a service-based, like non-for-profit, what are we talking about?
Well, yeah, maybe it should be called a non-for-profit. Yeah. But, yeah, people get paid within not-for-profits and things like that. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know the answer to get everything that we want on the budget that we have. So if you're not getting it from rates, then you're getting it from grants or fees. So, there's just not enough to operate at a profit.
Interesting.
You'll find out all that if you get into council. And,
I've already decided. I don't think it's for me, I think I've done too much OnlyFans shit to be in council.
Well, yeah, I don't know. Look, it's really interesting, but you can resign at any time, but 4 years is, it's a long time to be doing something that you kind of work out pretty quickly you're not interested in.
Yeah. Yeah, see, good friends with Ben Andrew.
I know.
Dude's born to be a counsellor.
Absolutely.
Like, he fully cares about everything.
Yeah, reads everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, like, talking to him about, like, I'll ask him a question. Oh, hey, man, what's being built across the road here? And it's like a 25-minute answer. I'm like, dude, you could have just said nursing home. You know what I mean? Like, that was a question. But it's amazing that he's like, oh, yeah, well, such and such, here's when it's going to start and finish, here's who's involved. And it's funny because this person used to own that land and blah, blah. It's like, oh, wow. And I know that that's not comprehensive information on just that you know about,
Yep.
And I think that, like, that's awesome. He's involved with businesses. He's involved in business in general. He has his own business. He is that sort of mentality to begin with. Like, whatever he is going to learn about, he's going to learn about it. So to put him as a counsellor is like, cool. I think he's very emotionally intelligent as far as removing himself from the decision. He's not making the decision because, I think it'll be good for me. It's like, no, there's a bigger picture here and it doesn't involve me. I feel that to be true about him. But, there's other people there that footnote this with, council should be a representative of the constituents on average. So you kind of want a mother and a father, an accountant and a librarian and you kind of want an average set of people. But I think the problem with having an average set of people is you get average answers. And realistically, you want the council to be run by people that are way smarter than you so that you don't have to worry about the decisions that are being made. And then as a constituent, you can put in your opinion as it goes along. And that way smarter person may go, well, I didn't really picture it from the point of view of someone who lives in a cul-de-sac. I didn't picture it from the point of view of someone who has this experience. And then they can adapt their knowledge. So in that sense, like, I feel like someone like Ben is good because he has that business background. He has that non-attachment to the situation. But then, I'm not going to point the finger or even like suggest who it might be, but I feel like there are some other people in council where it's like, where's your intelligence come from? Like, what's your point of view or your background that helps you in this role that would make me feel as a ratepayer comfortable, A, voting for you and B, supporting you?
Yeah. And so ideally, I think councillors should be elected like you would, choose board members. So it would be, an expression of interest to the community, use a skills matrix to find the gaps in your skill set, and that's who you're looking for. We need someone with financial background. We need someone with social background. So you build a board basically of people with those skills you're talking about. And then they all sit around a table and then they have those, discussions as a board, not just like you said, people who were popularly elected, myself included, of people's perception of what you might bring to the table. It should be, a skills-based appointment.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the idea that when people want to know about organic marketing, they look at me and say, well, what do you think? So thank goodness you didn't ask me about artificial reefs because I have no idea, Like, the only question that I had to ask the other night was, how many hits do they get on the website? It's like, that is a massive metric to me. I'm thinking, like, you guys are talking about raising money. You have 3 million people that clicked on that thing. If you have 3 million people that clicked on one thing, you need to act on that, because there's people who, if at the very least, are interested in finding out more, there needs to be some sort of automation to send that to them. Because if you're trying to get public behind you, but that's it. You've already got it,
Yeah. Yep.
And then, as soon as it gets into finances and that, my eyes just glaze over and I'm, thinking about T-shirts again,
Well, it's always about the money, isn't it?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we've covered some bases today.
Yeah, we have.
This is interesting.
Yeah, we've been all around.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
And I definitely have said some stuff that I already regret. So that's a sign of a good podcast.
Oh, really? What have you regretted?
Oh, no, I just think I went pretty hard in the I'm confident I'll be a good parent and take over the world speech. But
well, I'm confident you'll be a good parent. And, yeah, you probably will take over the world. It'll be great.
One thing at a time.
Well,
One thing at a time. Do you have any aspirations for the future? What's your, as in for the future of like your involvement in the Bunbury landscape?
Well, I guess I'm already, advocating for the artificial reefs. I'd like to, surf a lot more than I have been able to in the past. I also am the chair of BREC, so I'd really like to get more community philanthropic support for the arts and the performing arts, and so that's something to work on into the future.
Is there still the hotel? Is that a thing? Is that going ahead, the hotel next to the BREC?
Yes, apparently they're like one clause away from signing on the dotted line.
Because that's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge. That's like
massive.
the cell that I got given, may have even been a Ben conversation. I don't even know if I should be talking about it. Ooh. Was the idea that you can then bring in massive acts into Bunbury when you have a hotel that's connected to the entertainment centre, so they have essentially privacy. They can go from the place to their hotel room and not be,
Yeah. No, that's great. The potential developers are great. They've been for a tour of BREC. We've met with them. They're really open to the whether it's a physical connection or connection through landscaping. We'll definitely be neighbours, and we have facilities that they don't necessarily need to build into their hotel.
Yeah.
So we're definitely in discussions with them for all the advantages that could bring to both. For sure.
If you were to call it from this point of view, foreshadowing, what do you think the crazy negative comments on Facebook are going to come out of the hotel? Because for sure, parking is one of them. Like, you're going to take away how many cars? We already can't find a car park.
Oh, it can only be a good thing, right? I mean, surely everybody knows we don't have enough accommodation in Bunbury. It's either the building's going to be ugly, there's always that one, or, there's no views through to the water anymore. People are very protective about that open space to the inlets and having uninterrupted views, which is why I think some of where Coolanbiddy is now, in the old days they wanted to, put a new art gallery and things, and people objected to having buildings that close to the water. Yeah,
well, you got to admit, that's like... See, that's the sort of thing, that's like one thing in a group of like 6 awesome things by the ocean that would create Bunbury as an international hotspot. Putting a skate park next to the water is bananas. Like,
interesting.
That big, like the massive bowl at Scarborough, that is like, that's crazy. To take literally like prime real estate and put a skate park there is just genius. And the idea, see, this is, I don't know, it's maybe a controversial thing to say, but the idea that it brings like crime and loitering and the sort of people that you don't, people with tattoos and no shirts on skateboarding, heaven forbid, and graffiti and things like that, brother, that's culture. That's what happens when people visit.
Right. Yeah.
That's a sign that things are going well.
Diverse community.
And yes, graffiti in the toilets where they have to shut it down, it's just bad. It's bad. I shouldn't have to say it's bad. But when you start getting real graffiti on places, that means that you have graffiti artists from outside of your town coming to your town to graffiti.
Yeah.
Because enough people will see it. It's a justification of going somewhere to put your tag there because it will be witnessed by people. I don't like graffiti in general, but I am very aware of the fact that if you have somewhere like, you go on the trains in Melbourne and they have like kilometres of tunnels that are just in and out of graffiti, it's because there's thousands of people on the train every day.
Yep.
That's why. And it's like these negative things that come with these positive things are a sign that the positive things are working.
Yeah, and it's always the negative feedback of the loudest, squeakiest wheels.
Yeah.
And I think probably I don't know if it's just Bunbury, but I'm sure it's everywhere. The positive feedback, no one gives the positive feedback, the alternate view, because you just can't be bothered dealing with all those, negative people. So, but you need that person to speak up for the positive.
You have to
let
incentivize
people
the
know.
positive feedback, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Like, hey, we did a good job. Do you mind leaving us a Google review? It's like, yeah, for sure. As soon as that conversation's over, they're not leaving a review. You know what I mean? Like, that's all right. If you leave a good review, I'll give you 15% off your next order. Like, oh, all right. They leave a review and they're like, here's what I want. It's like, you're taking me up on the offer as well. Cool. Can't just do a good job, can I?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, that's right. And like people wouldn't know that seeing graffiti around like that is because someone from outside town has valued it enough to come and do stuff like that. But there's all these people saying, look at that terrible graffiti, but then there's no one saying what you've just told me. So it's just negative the whole time.
Even the artificial reef, like if you create waves in Bunbury, do you think right now we can sell surfboards in a town that doesn't get waves? So do you think when we do get waves, we'll be able to sell more surfboards? Think that might create a new market for young entrepreneurs to be down at the beach and selling wax? I don't know the surf industry, so I don't know what the...
Oh, you wait, Jake. The surf economy. So Bells Beach have a comprehensive study on the surf economy, and they have 50 years worth of commerce there related to the surf industry. But it's pretty much a well-known fact that as soon as you have surf in your community, it brings new entrepreneurs. Even, not just directly related to the surf industry, but cafes, restaurants, clothing shops, more shops like Hillsy's and places like that, because they know the people that come with it, that come with surf, usually stay the night. They eat, they drink.
Oh, yeah, because you want to... Surfing's a morning thing, hey?
Oh, it just depends on the wind and the swell conditions. So it could be either end of the day, middle of the day, whenever. But I believe it's a catalyst project for Bunbury. It's a game changer. Because Margaret River, their wine industry didn't really go bonkers on its own. It was the surf industry that was there first.
Right.
So the guys that were coming down to surf needed jobs, and so they started opening up cellar doors so the kids could go there and work there casually, then go and have a surf.
I think the same thing with jetty baths as well. Like in my mind, when I close my eyes and really think about what that is, there's pop-ups, So
you're talking along the causeway out to the Crane? Is that when you say jetty baths, or you mean just the kind of the VAT2 bay?
No, what's the name of the projected thing where they're gonna build the jetty pools? Is it the built-in ocean water pool?
Oh, the ocean pool.
Ocean
pool concept.
Yeah, sorry, that's what I was talking about before. So that there, I see that obviously, everyone in it, everyone sitting on the corners of it, umbrellas and stuff set up with families chilling, sitting back, reading a book, real, I know almost like Scarborough again, like that same vibe where people are just there, and it's very simple. If you want to sell a product, you go where the people already are. You don't generate something that has foot traffic, you go to the foot traffic. And I mean, I know for sure if there's buildings that are supplementary there that are, meant for, there's going to be a deli, there's going to be a cafe, there's going to be a board shop, there's going to be, I mean, the fact that 6230 Glenn's,
cafe,
he should be selling pool toys and shit, not stuff that creates rubbish, but it's brother, you're at the beach, sell towels, like
they do in Europe,
everything,
where you go along the beach is you can buy everything.
Yeah. Literally, where are the kids pulling eskies? That's what I think. Sell ice creams for 3 times the amount, because most people will buy them to support the kid, not for the ice cream.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what again, the road between here and there, I don't know what that looks like, but I do know that I think that's one of those situations that if you build it, they'll come, and when they come, people will respond with commerce.
Yes, I agree. Yeah. So, the ocean pool's in train, I believe. So, hopefully we'll find $20 million, and off we go.
Pocket change. I like it. Well, thank you very much for coming on the podcast, Amanda. Is there anything you would like, any departing words, anything you want to promote?
No, I think I've said everything that I need to say.
Beautiful. All right,
Jake.
let's wrap it up there. Be good to your mum because we are out. All right. I was joking. It's not quite the end of the show. If you want to show your support, don't forget, jump on the website, buy the month by month exclusive merch. Be good to your mum because now we're out.